Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the Improv in Training one of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. I'm Andrew Jacobs. Improvisation worries me a bit. I like to know what I'm going to say and generally have planned what's likely to happen. However, I also produce a podcast where I expect guests to improvise their content. There is no script or prepared questions. So we wanted to hear from some talented women and get their opinions about improvisation in training. Our first guest is Abby Manifold. Abby, who is based near Leeds in the UK, has spent over 2 decades in L&D and is head of organisational development with a specialist behaviour change organisation called ICE Creates. Her work is in the leadership and organisational development space, and in her words, she loves to do behaviour change that really sticks for people. Our next guest is Anna Grady. Anna is a confidence coach for women in technology. Using science-backed tools, she helps her clients improve their confidence by 10, accelerate their performance, and build strong relationships. In 2010, she co-founded and scaled an edtech company into a multi-million-dollar business. She was the chief operating officer and head of HR, but noticed a huge gender gap in the industry. After a successful exit in 2020, she created her coaching business. Anna's purpose is to help close the gender confidence gap and to accelerate equality in the tech industry by empowering women. Our final guest is Jennifer Robinson. Jennifer transforms revenue with her global expertise in sales, marketing, and sales enablement. She's an author and speaker on revenue enablement, strategy, and alignment. What sets her apart is her innovative way of teaching essential skills through improv. She uses behavioural science and fun improv games to help master skills like communication, collaboration, and thinking on your feet. Her motto is, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Her goal is, create lasting behaviour change and drive business results. Recorded at the start of July 2024, this is a super conversation, so please settle back and listen to women talking about learning. This is Abby, Anna, and Jennifer talking about improv in training.
Anna, Jen, it's so lovely to meet you online, finally, after chatting on LinkedIn for ages.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. Yeah, very well, very well. Just about to have lunch here in the U.S. and sounds like we're a little bit spread out all over the country or all over the world.
Yeah, we are. So, Jen, you're based where?
I'm in Ohio, right in the middle of the Midwest. Yeah.
Okay, and Anna, you're based?
I'm in Vancouver. Hi, everyone. Great to be here with the two of you today.
I had a question actually about this before. I was doing a little bit of reading about it online. And I wondered do we start with defining what improv actually is and what it means to us first? Would that be a good place to start, do you think?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Who would like to go first?
I can go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Anna.
My pleasure, Abby. So as a strong introvert, I've always struggled with impromptu communication. I often leave situations wishing I said something different. I over-prepare for everything and prefer to have notes or scripts. So I signed up for my first improv class in January to work on my on-the-fly communication skills. And in that supportive environment, I learned the basics of improv.
Oh, I get you. So it's in response to some self-discovery then, in terms of who you are and how you operate in what you do. How's it working out for you? What's different?
Well, it was a great experience, that first class. And my key takeaway was to learn to embrace the power of failure. You learn the most through your failures. And improv teaches you to embrace failure, learn from it, and move forward. And failures are often the stepping stones to success. I always say fail fast at improv and build more confidence in yourself at work and at play. So after taking that first course, I was asked to facilitate an improv workshop, and that was terrifying. My inner critic said, how can you facilitate a workshop on something you've done one course at? But I said yes to face my fear. And it was an incredible experience being able to facilitate improv, to learn from everybody in the room, and to see people getting outside their comfort zones and trying new things.
That sounds amazing. You really can teach it after just one workshop. I agree. There's no reason why you can't do that. How about you, Jen? How did you experience it, and what does it mean to you? What does improv mean to you?
Well, I'm also an introvert and perfectionist, so I feel you completely on that one. My angle was a little bit different. I found I did a lot of public speaking, which 10 years ago would have absolutely terrified me, but I kind of inched my way into it. And of course, being an instructor. But I still was trying to get to that place where I felt comfortable without the notes and the scripts, like Anna mentioned, and going out and just free forming, as well as I am a complete science nerd. And I love the science of behavior change. That is, I could talk about this all day long. And what I found when I'm doing behavioral science work and I started looking at improvisational work is that a lot of the exercises are very similar. They're actually almost identical, where you're taking a behavior and you're breaking it down into little bits, and then you're practicing those little bits and then putting them back together. So that got me right there, where I could get used to going out and just speaking freely and not feeling like I had to over prepare, and also understand as a teacher, not only as a learner, but as a teacher, how I can apply that in different scenarios to get the same reaction out of my students.
Yes.
What about you, Abby?
I mean, speaking as an introvert, and also a perfectionist, Jen as well. So I feel like we're all in the same team here already. I find that improv, it isn't something that I've learned in a workshop or a course or anything like that, but it's definitely a departure from the more normal methods of facilitation or learning delivery, or even meetings maybe, where you have a rough structure and you are prepared to trust yourself and kind of fly and just go off plan. And people often have given me feedback before that says you're a bit of a maverick, aren't you, as a facilitator? Whether that's the improv coming out or whether that's just a personality thing, I don't know. But for me, it's partly about having a plan and knowing what you need to achieve, and then being really ready to trust yourself that you can do it in an improv space. You don't have to have everything written down, and it'll still be perfect at the end. People actually sometimes love it more. I don't know if you two find that.
Yep.
I definitely do. I get the best feedback when I have had a structure, but just being quite freeform with the energy and improvised in terms of where do we go now? How does it look? How should it feel? That's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, I got a lot of pushback at first when I said, I'm not going to put agendas on trainings or meetings because that sets up an expectation of what's going to happen. And I was like, no, I know the hit points I need to hit. What order they go in, how they flow, doesn't matter. As long as we hit all the points. And if you have an agenda, people are waiting for something more systematic. So I threw out the agenda altogether.
Yes. Or they're waiting for a break so they can get the biscuits.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it kind of just, sometimes it's good, isn't it, to have an agenda if it is, really structured, and it has to be. But I would always vote for having a flow, but not an agenda, and improvising in the flow. And I completely agree. I work in behaviour change as well, and I adore it. And just allowing people to choose what happens and when is so powerful, because then they own it, don't they?
I love that so much. And that trusting yourself, kind of having the confidence to just let things go as they do, have that flow, dance in the moment, and really be present versus following some script and some structure.
Yeah,
absolutely. You reminded me actually of a facilitator who I used to work with, who was just exceptional. And she used to use that language of just dance with it, just be in the dance and just go with the flow, and that sort of responding to the energy and not to an agenda is so much more powerful, isn't it? For the people in the room, because it's their experience and not yours. And that's the important thing, isn't it? I do improv just because it's fun. So it is kind of my experience a bit, but it's for the people in the room.
And Abby and Anna, what type of training do you focus on? What is your passion?
I can go ahead. One-on-one coaching as well as group coaching. So there is that facilitation, there is that improv element. I like to have a rough structure, but then I bring improv into it so that everyone has a chance to co-create the space together, to learn and to kind of be aware of whatever shows up in that moment. And I find it's nice to have that balance of the two, some structure and some room for improvisation and just letting things flow naturally.
Absolutely. I find as well, it just brings such a sense of fun, and it's not unexpected or challenging to those people who do enjoy to have a structure and they do like to have a plan. I just find it injects a little bit of fun. It can be comedic as well, can't it? It can be quite fun and funny for people. But the key for me is that you are giving them that creativity. And actually, in a way, you're sort of showcasing, I'm ready for you. I am here for you. I've got the knowledge, I've got the skills, I've got everything that you need to deliver whatever this training is about. And I can serve it up to you wherever your energy is. And that's the beautiful thing about it for me. But I didn't answer your question, Jen, at all. Your question was, what do you do? So I everything that I do in work at the minute is focused on behaviour change, and my piece of it is leadership development. So I absolutely love it. So it's kind of working to just help leaders to execute that skill better, and kind of step into their true self. Really, I think you can only do that when you respond to their energy. You can't do it with a fixed agenda because they're all different, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with people in revenue. And when you're talking to people whose lives consist of having conversations with other people, the only way to learn how to have a conversation is to have a conversation. And if you think of breaking those pieces down, it's it's confidence, it's patience, it's active listening, it's all of those things that make up a really good conversation for anybody. And you can practice those through improvisational exercises. And that to me is, really having to learn what the other person is saying, because you have to react to it in the moment. That's mirroring a real conversation. You never know what the client's going to say.
Yes, it is. It's real. I think, I guess if you want to have something that goes off plan, you can read a book, can't you? Because it's the same for everybody. And that's great. But improv is slightly different. Do you find you get different responses when you do it and when you don't, in terms of just the audience or the feedback they give or the engagement they give you?
I do, definitely. The getting everybody up and active and reacting in the moment is a completely different feeling than have it scripted, have it in more of a organization set up.
And what's worked well in an improv workshop that I facilitated was the one word at a time story, kind of going around the room, telling the story one word at a time and having fun with it. And just, there's no wrong answers, and just really listening to what builds on the previous answer to kind of add your own flavor to it, and just not being scared to fail. And I've just seen some amazing results from exercises like that.
I love it. I'm really curious now, Anna. How has it changed your practice from when you were scared to fail? What was that kind of breakthrough like, and how was that for you? Because I think I might have done that too, but I'm really curious about yours.
Great question. So it really is a mindset shift, and to reframe failure as feedback. So we learn from everything that we do, whether we succeed, whether we fail, we learn. And the key is to treat yourself with compassion when you do make a mistake. And that gives you the resilience to keep going and to keep stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone and doing things you never thought possible. Like Jen, like I never publicly spoke before. It's a brand new thing for me, and it was terrifying at first. But when you see yourself doing something and maybe not even doing it perfectly, but you learn from each experience, that rush to conquer those fears and to take yourself to the next level, it's amazing. And that's what I want for my clients and for everyone.
Yeah. Is that kind of like improvising in life, isn't it really?
Yeah.
Kind of doing it all the time, aren't we? And just think, shall I do that? Shall I eat that new food? Shall I go and do a speech at a conference or whatever the thing is? And then saying yes to yourself, like, I want to do it. And I'm not going to listen to the fear. I'm going to listen to the yes voice and just letting yourself do it. I'm really curious again, because I've got a specific thing happening at the minute. How do you coach other people to make that leap? What do you do, and have you done that?
Yeah, so it's mindset work. It's kind of transforming your inner dialogue to be more positive, creating those mindful moments throughout your day to get out of the negative kind of saboteur inner critic voices, to tap into that yes voice, like you mentioned, that internal wisdom that you have. And it just takes practice. It's like a muscle. And to just kind of have that growth mindset where you always look at what's happened in the past and, well, maybe it didn't go well, but what can I learn from it? What can I take away? What can I do better next time? And to just, it really comes down to the relationship that you have with yourself, and to always treat yourself with love and kindness.
I love that. You make me wonder now if Carol Dweck has ever improvised. She probably has, with a growth mindset. Oh yeah, so many questions in my head. So many questions. Have we actually defined it? Have we defined what it is though? I'm asking because I'm not sure.
Not exactly.
That?
No, I don't think we did.
I don't know if we did. I think. How would I say? I would probably say improv is could be perceived as being incompatible with a plan, and that's a risk, because it's not devoid of a plan, is it? It's just being willing to step into a space that's within a structure, but you haven't got the detail yet. For me, it's kind of that. And I wondered about this. Are we improvising in life all the time? Is it just something that you do all the time anyway? This conversation is a bit of an improv, isn't it? Because none of us know what each other's going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe. What else would you add to that?
I'd say it's life, and it's what we say and what we do, how we show up, how we communicate, how we speak up and learn to be more comfortable speaking up. Because a lot of that is improv. I know in the past, I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I only want to speak up if I had a fully formed thought to contribute. So kind of letting go of that and trusting yourself.
Absolutely. It's that trust, isn't it? When you think about the enablers for doing improv, you've got to somehow, even as an introvert and a recovering perfectionist, I love that, you've somehow got to walk into the room and just go, I'm here, I'm just going to have a flow and I'm going to just do it. And you have to trust yourself. You have to know it's going to be okay. And that, I love your permission to fail thing, because that's what holds people back, doesn't it? When they don't think it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And confidence to go off plan, which I wonder, can you only do that when you have the knowledge in some ways?
I think that takes practice and time to get used to going off script and off agenda. That's the being okay to fail. It's, I see that in the improv classes where you're in an exercise and it's just going so fast that you don't have time to think about saying something wrong, because the exercise is going so fast. And one thing that in my class we say is, as long as you try, you're not failing. Like, it doesn't matter what you say if you're not getting the exercise quite right, if you don't understand it, if you are confused, whatever. As long as you're trying, that's your success. And if you build on that, then you can do anything.
Oh, I love that so much, Jen. I always say the definition of confidence is your willingness to try. As long as you're willing to try things, that's how you build new skills. And that's how you get outside your comfort zone and tackle those fears.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe just seeing somebody do something and then you almost imitate it, don't you? I was in a session recently with our CEO, and he did the most beautiful piece of just unpacking somebody's kind of lived narrative in the form of a story. But that person was so nervous, and just the way he did it was beautiful. And then there was another one, and we just had this kind of glance in the session where we silently kind of said to each other, I'll do the next one then. And I just sat down and did exactly what he'd done. And it was brilliant. It was so good. And that's the kind of, it's a sort of improv, but imitating somebody who's great at it is so helpful, isn't it? Just that trusting each other and going, I'm going to try here. And I feel safe that I could fail, but actually I'm not going to fail because I've seen it done really well. And then it's almost copying, isn't it? And it just gives you that extra bit.
Yeah, my favorite exercises are like the one that you mentioned, Anna, the single word stories where you're using the yes and mantra in improv to elicit new thoughts. There's a spin on that I really like, where one person would say, a few sentences of a story, and then you'd have to repeat back exactly what they say and then add a few more words to it. And that really exercises the active listening, where to be able to answer and build the story, you have to have heard and repeat back exactly what they say. And I think that's great practice for anyone to really think about not listening to speak, but listen to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the sound of the story thing that goes around the room. I haven't heard of that before. It's reminding me of a listening exercise that I sometimes do as part of improv, if it works for people, where you have to listen to somebody for 3 minutes, which is, most people just don't do that, do they? Most people don't have that gift of being listened to for 3 minutes. But you're listening for what they don't say about their, whatever the topic is, their, thing about their job or their holiday or their home life or whatever they're talking about. You have to listen for the gaps and then notice the gaps, and you listen really, really hard, which is a kind of improv.
Yeah, that's what we learn in coach training, to listen at levels 1, 2, and 3. Like, listen to what the person is saying, listen to what they're not saying, use your intuition to hear what's missing from what they're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And tapping into it. So far we need to trust ourselves. We need confidence. What else do we need to improv well? I'm trying to think now, what's going on for me inside as this introvert person who's actually quite shy in real life, who is also a facilitator. What's happening on the inside? I'm not sure what I might add. Trust, confidence, maybe a little bit of self-belief, actually, to just believe for myself that I haven't messed a session up yet, and I'm probably not going to mess this one up either. It's okay if I do. And it chimes in with your self-compassion, doesn't it, Anna, about just give yourself that bit of love and speak to yourself like your best friend would speak to you.
Yeah, it's that self-compassion. Like, we treat others with kindness and love. And so often we are harsh to ourselves, and we don't need to be that way to ourselves.
Yeah, we're awful, aren't we? I wonder if, especially, I'm going to say especially women, but I absolutely know that men do it too. We are awful to ourselves in our own heads, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that could potentially be a barrier to sort of stepping into that improv energy in a training or facilitation or a meeting or wherever you are. Just that harsh voice that goes, you can't do it, you're rubbish. But you aren't, and you have to challenge it and you have to talk back to it, don't you?
Yeah. I think when you hit on especially in women, I think that's very true. I think we are conditioned to be very hard on ourselves and to wait to speak and to, all of those things, to not just go out there and go with the flow. It's like we have to be 1000% prepared for something that maybe not everybody else feels like they need to be 1000% prepared for. And that going through the improv process, I think, loosens up that muscle where it's, hey, you can go with the flow. You can speak off the cuff. You do know what you're talking about. No, really, you do know what you're talking about, because it's so easy to convince ourselves that everybody else has the answers, or we don't know everything about the topic because we've only spent 10,000 hours studying it.
Absolutely. I often think that about my kind of area is HR and kind of behavior change, leadership development. I've done it for almost 25 years, and occasionally I catch myself thinking, you don't know enough about this, but I absolutely do. I mean, potentially, can we all agree today, for all women, and especially introverted women, that we are the experts in what we do, and it's okay. It's also okay to not know everything, isn't it? It's okay to get partway through something that you've improvised for a facilitation or a training or whatever it is that you're doing, and say to the room, let's Google it together. Let's look on ChatGPT together, because I don't have all the answers. That's not what I'm here for, but we're going to find them together. And that's okay.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is real.
Yes.
And I think women are particularly prone to it. But like you said, we don't have to always be perfect. And that goes back to the exercises that help you fail and fail often, so that you can go, oh, okay, how do I handle that? Like, you're going to fail. What is my answer to failing? What do I instinctually do when I fail, so I can take a step back and try again?
Absolutely. And it's that moment where you check yourself and you go, I'm not sure if it's a failure. It's a learning. It's something that didn't go to plan. That's how I would fail it. I mean, of course, unless somebody's been, hurt or harmed, sure, those are failures, absolutely. But in a work meeting, what's really the worst that can happen, And you've got to bring yourself back to that, haven't you? And kind of just think, you know what? It's unlikely that I'm going to die as a result of any of this, right? Today.
Right.
So what's the worst? And just get yourself back to that space where you're not being flippant ever, but it's just about going, I can try my best. If it doesn't work, what people experience is just a real person who has self-compassion and who goes, you know what, I'm not perfect, and it's okay to not be perfect. I often say in facilitation, if I did meet a perfect person, I'd probably want to punch them in the face. How do you two feel?
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person either. I just feel quite strongly about it.
Yeah, back to the topic of how women could really benefit from improv. A lot of my clients and women in general, we're empaths. We care about other people. We value other people's opinions. And so when we're so empathetic, it can be really hard to be assertive and to have that voice in those meetings and to speak up. And that's where improv can really, really help close that gap and help us speak up and know that our opinions are valid. We have something important to say. People want to hear what we have to say, and to kind of understand that it's not always the loudest voices in the room that are always right, and we have a place and we deserve to be heard.
Oh, for sure. They say, don't they, it's the emptiest vessel that makes the most noise. And it's so true, isn't it? It's just so true. And just sort of being able to stand in that power, in that sense of truth, as somebody who's maybe got empathy as a skill, they're more caring, maybe more compassionate, but also you have to put in brackets, men do that too. It's just socially conditioned not to be shown as much, isn't it? I do think everyone does it, but certainly it can sometimes hold you back, can't it, from having more robust conversations, because you might be a bit scared to be perceived as bossy or whatever it is, when actually you're just being assertive and making a point, which is fine.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact statistics right now, but I was just reading some about when a woman speaks, I believe it was more than 15% of the time that the men in the room feel like women are dominating. So it is a fact that it is perceived that if a woman does speak up for herself, that it can be seen as talking over, being too assertive. And I think one of the things about improv that does help with that as well is that when you learn how to do it with a little bit of comedy, it can lighten the mood where you're saying you're still speaking your truth, but you're saying it in a way that doesn't put people on edge, which is unfortunately what we have to do, but also, can make conversations a little bit more fun as well.
It can make it fun, can't it? I think in some ways, are we improvising our way through smashing the patriarchy? I hope we are.
Yes, I love that.
I hope everyone listening is going to do it too.
That's perfect.
But I mean, there's so much to say about it, isn't there? But because I haven't done sort of workshop in it or a course in it or anything. I've very much just learned on the job and to differentiate between what's going on plan and what's going off plan, and then consciously improvising more and in different ways to explore that. But both of you have done workshops in it. So can you tell me what happens and if I should do one?
You should do one. Absolutely.
Should I do one? Because there's loads available, aren't there, all over the place? I can easily find one.
I have a show coming up on Friday, so.
No way.
Yes, I do.
You need to send me the link to that. Jen. I want the link. Okay.
Yeah, I think everyone in this world can benefit from improv. So sign up for a class, preferably an in-person class in your neighborhood, to boost your communication skills and to advance in your career.
Yeah, the exercises are really interesting and fun, of course, terrifying in the moment, but so I don't know if Abby, if you got what Anna was talking about with the one word story.
I think I did. I think I kind of envisaged it, but explain it for me, unpack it so that I can understand it. And in brackets, of course, I'm going to steal it and use it.
Absolutely. So one of the core tenets of improv is yes and. So anytime anybody says something, you want to agree. So you never want to disagree with the person that is saying something first, and you want to add to it. So you're agreeing and enhancing. And so when you're doing one word or multiple word stories, somebody says once upon a time, and then in your head, yes, and there was a girl that, so you're building a story person after person, and it can go like a million different directions because every person adds their little color to it, but you're building a story together. And it gets you used to you don't know where the story's going. You don't know whether the person before you is going to say something completely outlandish, and you have to just say without thinking sometimes. And that gets you used to using those, the associations, just the word associations, and thinking in creative ways. And that can be a whole lot of fun.
It sounds like brilliant fun. And really it chimes with that whole idea of creating something together, isn't it?
Yeah.
Building it up together. And it's shared ownership, shared participation, and shared connection and fun, it really shows how important that is in terms of just the collaboration, and how you can just deploy something like that with almost no planning, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
It's great for team collaboration, for risk-taking and innovation. It helps with creativity and problem solving, adaptability and being quick on your feet, and with your effective communication.
So as introverts, I'm asking purely because I think I have a way of stepping into improv as an introvert. And it's about an energy switch where I almost step into a different version of me, and she isn't an introvert. And just in that moment, I'm quite extroverted, and I'm really taking the energy from other people in the room. It's that whole kind of second circle of energy thing, that idea where the energy is shared and it's connected and it's moving all the time in a great big circle. Is it similar for either of you, or how does it feel for you?
For me, it is that energy shift. It's letting go of the negative self-talk. It's showing up to have fun and to just be silly, be goofy, be playful, kind of channel that inner child that we all have. and to treat myself nicely, even if I do mess up. And who cares? It's all in the game of fun and learning and growth.
You need your inner child, don't you, to come out and play for improv. I'm not sure if you could do it entirely from a space of adult. Of course, we have to do, there's loads of bits of our jobs that we have to execute from adult, aren't there? And, you know, they're fine. But you do have to invite your inner child out to play, don't you? If you want to do it well, you have to be a bit mischievous and a lot fun, don't you? And it's like you say, ready to play, isn't it? Let's play a game. Let's play with an idea. Let's play with a concept. And just the joy of the debate and the dance, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust too that develops in the room when you're doing these kinds of exercises, because again, one of the underpinnings is you're working with your partners. You know, the people in the room doing the exercises with you are your partners, and you're setting them up for success just as they're setting you up for success. So nobody's trying to make somebody embarrassed or make somebody feel stupid. Everybody wants everybody else to be successful. So it builds this feeling of trust and support that if I start to falter a little bit, somebody else on my team is going to step in. Somebody else is going to grab it, and, you know, we're going to work together. And that's a great feeling, and it allows you to express some things that maybe you wouldn't, because you feel like I'm in a really safe zone here that I can just say whatever and it's going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of good feelings in the work that we do, isn't there? But one of the most lovely for me is when you co-facilitate with somebody, and just that energy is symbiotic, and you get each other and you have each other's back, and they can see if you're faltering and they catch you and they save you. And it could just be something really simple, or, you know, something else that they do. But I love that, and being able to do that in improv with somebody else who gets it and gets what's going on and is willing to step into that dance with you in front of other people. It's as good as it gets, I think, for me. And facilitation, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the one rule that I have if I'm using improv in a business setting is there are no titles in this room. There are no hierarchies. Everybody's just a person. And no one's going to get say over anyone else, because it's all the game. You know, we're all playing the game together. And that's going to build into the, you know, things you were talking about before with the confidence, communication, all the things that come out of that.
Yeah, it's creating that safe space. In the workshop that I facilitated, I opened with a really vulnerable story to kind of build that trust and connection. And it empowered others to be vulnerable and to show up and to really get outside their comfort zones and take more risks.
For sure. And you can only do that when it's real, can't you? You know, sharing those real stories about yourself, and here's what I have done and experienced as a leader, and here's maybe when I didn't get it so right, and here's where the learning was for me, and this is what's different now. When you share that, you just get this avalanche, don't you? And other people go, oh my God, I'm not on my own. She did it too. And if she can do it, then I can share mine, and that's fine. And you do need improv to get to that place, don't you? You need to be able to just share your authentic self, which is not scripted.
Yeah. One of the exercises that I do is have somebody come out and do a 90-second to 2-minute monologue that is a story from their life, and make it as colorful as possible. And then three other people in the troupe have to find pieces within that story to build their own story, and then they get up and do that as a scene. So it takes that idea of storytelling and adds more into it, and to the point where you're actually acting out a scene from a story that's built on somebody else's monologue. It's really a lot of fun and interesting, and it builds the storytelling muscle, which is a muscle that, you know, especially in sales, you need. But I think in leadership, in all kinds of communication stories. Being able to tell stories really well is very critical.
Absolutely. There's that the power of just a shared narrative, isn't it? And it's so much more powerful for behavior change than instructions. If we get the story, and I love the idea about building on it. What else? What bits of advice might you offer to anybody listening to this about how to do improv if you haven't done it before? If you want to step into that energy?
I'd say just go for it. Just sign up for that class, even if it's scary. And just show up to have fun, to collaborate, to co-create together. Leave self-doubt at the door and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
I love that.
Taking a class is really impactful. There's some really good books as well. If somebody wants to kind of find out a little bit more about what improv is, Upright Citizens Brigade, which is an incredibly well-known improv troupe, has some wonderful books that have tons and tons of exercises in the books that you can practice on your own, or practice with a group, and learn about what improv is and how you can use it. So both of those things are fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I would say just do it, because the group in the room are going to experience improv, but they're not going to know if it's wrong or right, because nobody does. And so that makes it feel safe. That's what I would say to anyone who's maybe a bit scared of it, or is thinking, I can't do it, or I have to follow a script. Go off script. Make a flow, make a facilitation flow for sure. You need to know where your energy wants to be in the day, and that's fine. But then just ride it and go with it, because no one can tell,
Right.
can they, if it's wrong or right?
Exactly. Yeah.
During this recording, you might have noticed we had some unexpected guests, Jen's dogs. We did a bit of editing to try and keep the noise down, but as we've said before, we don't make any changes to the recordings, maybe a few ums and some pauses, but that's generally it. We want to keep it as authentic as possible. We're incredibly lucky to have Abby, Anna and Jennifer to share their approach of improv-based training, and we're sure you've gained some newfound techniques and appreciation for what they do. Do let us know what you think. A massive thank you to them for their time, and you'll find all their details along with links to the things they spoke about in the show notes. We've scheduled recordings until the first half of next year, but we're always on the lookout for guests, so if you'd like to take part, please do let us know. All the details, again, are in the show notes. We're back in a couple of weeks, and next time it's the women's identity one. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.